still think that it would be helpful for Canadians to know exactly what you would do when it comes to tariffs. So why are you being so reticent to talk about that?
Because I'm a good negotiator. I have negotiated a number of situations in the past. I know how to manage crises.
I'm on my way to Washington, D.C., and I want to explain to you, the Canadian people, exactly why. Because you're probably going to hear about it. I'm going to Washington because I want to help Prime Minister Mark Carney be successful in negotiating a trade deal with the United States. Now that might sound counterintuitive because I am a principled conservative, he is our liberal prime minister, but the reality is that this is not a partisan issue. CUSMA and trade with the United States is so important to the Canadian economy and to our future as an independent, self-reliant nation that conservatives and liberals don't need to fight over this at all. In fact, we need to work together. The leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, has said as much. He has offered help from conservatives to the Liberal government on this issue, and I'm acting on that. In my opinion, this is not about posturing or politics. This is about business and workers. This is about unions and entrepreneurs. This is about whether we have a growing economy with stability for investment and opportunity for our young people, or whether our economy is perpetually in a state of uncertainty. I am kind of sick and tired of the politics on this issue. I'm sick and tired of the posturing and the virtue signaling. I'm sick and tired of people being worried about what someone's going to call you on Facebook or on social media comments, what the media might say. The reality is that there are people suffering right now in our country because of the state of our economy. And inasmuch as we want Canada to be as strong and independent as possible, the reality is that 3/4 of our exports go to the United States. And if we want an economy that is good for our young people, if we want an economy that supports public services for seniors in our communities, we've got to work with the Americans. There are people who've been running around this country for over a year now, talking about their elbows, flapping about. I just don't find that impressive. I don't find it serious. I take this issue seriously. And as a guy who went to law school in the United States and has a strong network there, I think I have something to offer to help build bridges of communication between our two countries, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm alarmed when I see things like the talking about China and communist governments and doing more business with them. I get alarmed when I see announcements of electric vehicles now being imported into Canada while we have a crisis in our auto industry. I get alarmed in my home community when I see museums in Oshawa, like the Tank Museum or the Auto Museum, offering free admission to GM employees to do everything they can to just stand in solidarity with people whose lives have been turned upside down because of the economic uncertainty, the tariffs, and the lack of a good trade relationship with our biggest trading partner. So yeah, I say this to you knowing what's about to come my way. I know what all the critics are going to say, and I know what all the frothing, elbow-waving, anti-American activists are about to say about me. But I just don't care. I care more about you. I care more about the Canadian people, the people who want a future in this country and know that we need serious leadership, the people who believe that you elect people to do what's right and to stand up for you and fight for you above any kind of partisanship. I took this job because I thought there was important work that needed to be done in our country. And I thought that on behalf of the great people of Bowmanville, Oshawa North, I would have a chance to do some great work. And that's my motivation. So no matter what you hear, no matter what they say, I just want you to hear directly from me. I think you deserve good leadership in this country. And I think you deserve people who are going to cut through all the noise, cut through all the posturing and the virtue signaling, and just try to deliver something good for you and your kids. And to me, that's what a trade deal with the United States promises. It promises more stability so that we can grow our economy and that our country can be strong and awesome and live up to its enormous potential. And I think that's what we all want. And that's why I'm going to Washington, D.C. Thanks for listening.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. My name's Aaron, this is Canadian Looney. We're going to wrap it up. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a comment below. Check out this playlist, check out this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Aaron at Canadian Looney. Ciao for now. We'll catch you in the next one. Thanks again for watching. We're out.